Whew. Hey everyone, Toothany Late Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new 21 Savage, Offset, and Metro Boomin project, Without Warning. The Atlanta scene continues to drop these totally out of the blue super star power projects. First with Future and Young Thug's album slash mixtape. It's a mixtape masquerading as an album. That was a few weeks ago, and now we have a collaboration featuring one of the most cold-blooded rappers out there right now, 21 Savage. Also, one member of the Atlanta rap trio Migos, who also featured on Savage's Slaughter tape a little while back. And it's kind of odd seeing him step out in such a big way into a collaborative record, considering that, like, this past summer it seemed like Quavo was the member of the Migos that had, like, the most crossover potential outside of the trio. And then you have producer Metro Boomin, one of the most in-demand rap producers right now, who actually had a collaborative project out with 21 Savage last year, Savage Mode. And it's just a really weird bill. It is a weird bill, so of course because of that I went into this thing with a lot of questions and reservations. Like, Metro's production, for the most part I like it, but it can be kind of hit or miss, especially when it is running super formulaic. And 21 Savage, while I think he has a really distinct style that I like in small doses, he's one of the most one-dimensional rappers out there right now. And without the support of his fellow Migos, how would Offset do for the entirety of a mixtape or album? Especially considering tracks like Ric Flair Drip on this thing are just okay. And while 21 Savage and Offset have quite a bit in common, considering they are both contemporary trap rappers based in Georgia, they have wildly different styles that could theoretically mix like oil and water. And just like Super Slimy, there are a handful of tracks on this thing that don't even feature both Savage and Offset. But honestly, Without Warning is pretty tight. It does not overstay its welcome at just 10 tracks and 33 minutes, and 21 Savage and Offset actually complement one another more than I thought they were going to going into this project. For the most part, Metro Boomin and 21 Savage continue the chilling, scary, and cold-blooded aesthetic that they had going on with Savage Mode, but now the instrumentals are a little eerier, a little more atmospheric, a little more melodic. I mean, on the song Nightmare, it seems like Metro Boomin is consciously trying to create a trap take on 80s horror movie soundtracks like Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street, you know, John Carpenter, Charles Bernstein, that sort of thing. So they obviously have a good thing going, but then Offset comes in to kind of break up the monotony of, a 21 Savage track by providing a little bit more vocal energy, tighter flows. Neither Offset or Savage are really lyrical or interesting enough to carry an entire project on their own, so they just kind of, add up somehow. They kind of distract from one another's weaknesses here, and not simply because they're switching off, but also because I think they have quite a bit of chemistry and cohesion on this thing. While I would call neither of these two artists stupendous, it does seem like they're both putting their all into nearly every single one of these tracks. And while this project is far from being perfect, there are a lot of bangers on here. The song Ghostface Killers with Travis Scott comes out with all cylinders firing. It has this lengthy but infectious hook from Offset that kind of reminds me of Travis Scott's 3500, but a little more low-key. His tight triplet flows and auto-tune vocals fit very nicely in the smooth, glossy, atmospheric instrumental. Travis Scott takes up the rear of the track really nicely. 21 Savage provides his verse in the middle of the track, which is much drier and closer and more intimate than any other vocal on the track. It's a bit of a weird adjustment and change-up, but this small flub on this track is something that I feel like it's worked out deeper into the record. Like, the sense of collaboration sounds a bit tighter on the subsequent tracks. As there are moments on this thing where the auto-tune on Offset's vocals isn't quite so overbearing, or there's a bit more in terms of effects on 21 Savage's voice, or maybe Offset just kind of turns his energy level down just a little bit more to match Savage's. On the song Rap Save Me featuring Quavo, 21 Savage takes up the hook on the song, the first verse, and he hits listeners with just this hypnotic flow. I am locked into this flow, which is enhanced by all the swirling reversed melodies playing throughout the instrumental. It's mind-bending, it's dark, it's trippy, and things only get hotter and more intense when Offset pops in with his fluttering auto-tune triplet flows. Now, My Choppa is one of the solo tracks on here, and is easily one of the best songs Savage has ever written and recorded. Not only because the hook is killer, like the KKK simile to his gun on this track is very nasty, very tasteless, but I think it just kind of speaks to just how heartless Savage is when he's rapping and when he's writing and he's in that murderous headspace. And then the transition into the song Nightmare at the end of this song is fantastic. It's an amazing transition. It makes the two songs seem linked in a significant way. And I think conceptually and melodically they are. And I actually wish more songs on this thing segued into one another like that. It would make this whole project seem so more thematic and seamless. The song Disrespectful hits a really nice groove through 21 Savage's flow and the beat. Even though it is sort of low-key, oddly enough, I find it to be one of the more aggressive tracks in the track listing here. Like, for me, this was kind of relatively a high-energy moment here. The other tracks sitting shoulder to shoulder with these cuts are okay, in my opinion. Where the album really starts to blunder is in its final moments. You can tell the potential and the ideas in this collaboration are kind of running thin. The song Run Up the Racks is a solo Savage track that gets pretty sleepy and nondescript. It pretty much goes stale by the second half. I mean, it's pretty much a 21 Savage song by the numbers. And the song Still Serving feels like yet another sluggish installment from the Savage Mode project, but just with Offset featuring on it in the second half. The song Darth Vader features some really eerie chimes in the instrumental that are a pretty big selling point, though I think the drums, the percussion on this thing isn't really much to write home about. And while I do think there is greater vocal energy and chemistry coming from both Savage and Offset on this track, it's not like the song really does anything that the previous 9 tracks haven't already, and it's not really that spectacular of a finisher. And while overall I think this project is pretty entertaining, it's pretty good, it doesn't really have a whole lot of substance to give it, I think, the staying power it would need for it to be one of my favorites of the year. Though surely I will give it credit for having some pretty good and pretty infectious hooks here and there, as well as some freakishly cutthroat one-liners. I thought this project was pretty solid, more bangers than snoozers on this thing. I'm feeling a light 7 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this collaborative project a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like, please subscribe, and please don't cry. Just leave a thoughtful comment down in the comments if you're feeling thoughtful, if you're feeling like you have some in-depth thoughts on this record. Start a conversation, make a friend. And over here next to my head is a link to the Super Slimy review that I did a little while back, and also a link to subscribe to the channel that you should click on. Also, you know, if you can, hit that reminder, that notification bell too. That'd be nice. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. Forever.